Call the meeting of the North Syracuse Board of Education to order. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to begin by observing a moment of silence for the following. Robert Strother, a retiree of the North Syracuse Central School District. Leslie Winkler Goldberg, a former employee of the North Syracuse Central School District. James Murphy, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. And Corey Stuller, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. Thank you. We're going to begin with some student recognition from the Director of Math. So I'm turning it over to you, Mr. Scholes.
So a couple weeks ago, we recognized our MathCon those students who participated in MathCon and were above the top 10% in the district. And there was one student who was not able to make it today or that day. And he is able to make it with us today. So I'd like to call up Mark D'Amica and recognize Mark and give him a certificate and have him give a good handshake with the superintendent. Oh, awesome. There we go.
Half of the district, I want to say thank you. You did a phenomenal job. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Mark is at Cicero Elementary and was in the 85th percentile.
Right. Do a picture here. So thank you.
Great job, Mark. And I'll have the superintendent and President Farfalia stay up for the recognition of Liam. Liam Pierce. Liam, why don't you come up? And while Liam is up here, I just wanted to recognize Liam. He took first place with two of his classmates, Elvis Cullum and Alyssa Bubriak. They took first place in the CNY Innovation for 2 years in a row, not just 1 year, but they also took first place last year. This year, he created a backpack with multiple different uses for it, right? It can charge, it's got a cooling station in it, all that type of stuff. It's like a maker fair for entrepreneurs, and really, really cool what they did. They took from design all the way to market and had to present it at Lemoyne College on the Lemoyne College Maker Fair. And so they placed first. And so congratulations, Liam. Hold on one second. Yeah, actually, I'd also like to recognize two teachers, actually one retired teacher and one current teacher, Allie Lowe, who is a first-year teacher at the junior high, as well as Claudia Hertzberg. Is it okay if I have them come up and take a picture? As they helped with this whole entire process. Great job.
Okay, next we have a treat. We're going to hear from the winners of the oratorical contest from Optimist Club. We used to get this before COVID. It's been a while, so looking forward to this. Who's going to take it off here?
I'm just going to introduce Libby Thomas, who is Vice President of the CNS Optimist Club, and she will introduce the students.
Thank you very much. We are very much happy to be bringing these three students to you to hear tonight. Since its start in 1928, the oratorical contest has become the longest running program sponsored by the Optimist International. And this contest is designed for the youth to gain experience in public speaking. And you will see that they are really outstanding students. So it is my pleasure first to introduce the theme, which is discovering the optimism in me. This is the theme that they will address to you. The winners are, and I'm going to say their names a couple times, Hanifa Wasab, Johnny Lisi III, and Ergen Tamang. And we're going to start out with Ergen Tamang, who's going to share it with you. Would you prefer he sit or he stand facing you or facing this way? Okay. Ergen? Pass the mic to you.
Hello, my name is Ergen. I'm a junior at CNS, and today I'll be talking about my family. Discovering the optimism within me. In life, we'll always have to say our goodbyes. Goodbyes are often viewed as painful, whether it's for a short time or forever, but they don't have to be. Today, I'll be telling my story about a goodbye that had given me something I could have never imagined. William Arthur Ward has once said, "A cloudy day is no match for a sunny disposition." This is exactly how I would describe having a niece and a nephew. They are the sun rays that bring forth a lot of positive energy to the people around them. They brighten up my cloudy day. So I was in middle school when my sister got married. I didn't know what this meant for me. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I knew that she was going to leave us, and it was going to be pretty hard for me because I've been living with her all my life, and now she would be living with her husband. I couldn't think of something beyond that. I could have never imagined that I would get so close to my brother-in-law and have two bright sun rays in my life. My first sun ray is my nephew. He's around 4 years old. I have a ton of younger female cousins, but I never had a younger brother figure. So I never got to experience what it was like having a younger brother figure. I love to act like a little kid when I'm playing with him so I can have the most fun. He has so much energy to run around and play, which gives me a lot of energy when I'm tired or down. I look forward to when he comes to our house. And it's incredible how much my nephew exudes positive energy, which fuels my positivity for the future. I solely focus on having fun with him, which allows me to become more present in the moment and worry less about the future. I love being his friend and his uncle. My second sun ray in my life is my niece. She's about a year old. And she's at our house more often than my nephew, so we all get to see her more often. She has so much love for everyone around the house, I would say, especially for me and my older brother. As school finishes and I'm going home, I become hopeful that she is at our house. When she is usually there, she runs to the door and sees me coming home from school. It gets me excited and filled with energy, which takes away all of my tiredness from school. Hearing her, giving her a kiss, and making her laugh are the highlights of my day that outweigh the bad. She makes me realize that whoever I become, I will have a family to cheer me on and push me towards success. Just as I had to say goodbye to my sister as she moved in with her husband, I was given two beautiful niece and nephew who are like the rays of sunshine in my life. Two incredible family members who give me a reason to push for success. So be optimistic about goodbyes. As a wise man, Dr. Seuss once said, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened." Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, our next representative is Hanifa Wasab. If you'd like to come up, she was our zone winner. And she also went and helped represent our club at the competition that we held May 6th in New Hartford. Hanifa?
Thank you. I'm Hanif Wahab. I'm also a junior here at CNS High School, and this is my speech. Discovering the optimism within me. These past few years of high school have been a giant roller coaster, and I have been trying to find more optimism within my life with everything that has happened. From not getting enough sleep on a daily basis because of the massive loads of schoolwork, to finding myself more alone since COVID started to clear up, I find that by the end of the day, changing my mindset to remind myself that things will get better and participating in the activities I love are the best ways to get positive and optimistic vibes. Year after year, high school gets tougher. Classes get more rigorous and teachers add on more schoolwork for each night. I found myself staying awake until 1 a.m. just to get all of my work done, and doing that constantly for days on end, my mental health wasn't where it should have been. Studies at the University of Pennsylvania show that people who get less sleep on a daily basis were more stressed, angry, sad, and mentally exhausted. And I found myself that exact same way. I took so much time into making sure that I would finish all my work before the week had ended, to the point where not only my mental health was affected, but my mindset was as well. Thoughts like the only way I'm going to be happy is if I got all of my work done, and that it wouldn't even matter if I got any sleep because all my work would be finished, would rush through my brain. And when going to school, I would think about all the work I needed to finish and all the work I could have gotten done if I didn't spend so much time sleeping. But in reality, I was getting 5 hours of sleep maximum. After some time, something in my mind clicked. I realized that I wasn't content with the way I was living my life. I didn't want to get accustomed to letting my self-care be on the back burner while I would work away like there is no tomorrow. My biggest battle to go through to get to where I wanted to be was my own mind, and I knew that I needed to change my mindset on the way I think about sleep in school to become more optimistic about where I'm headed. George Bernard Shaw, an Irish playwright, says that those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. And I want to stick by this thought process. I started telling myself that it is okay if I don't get everything done, because I know that I'm doing the best that I can and that I will get it done. This change in mind has impacted my life in tremendous ways. I was able to get a somewhat regular sleep schedule while still being able to get all my work done in a timely and healthy manner. With this change in mind, I found myself thinking more optimistically and more positively. I was able to go to school, and instead of thinking about what needed to be done, I was able to focus on the content I was learning in school. And I was overall able to have a more positive mindset with what will happen in my academic future. As we get older, not only ourselves, but the people around us change. Being in high school, the most important thing to have alongside you is a friend, someone to look for guidance, help, and just regular company. After COVID started to clear up and we were able to go back to school regularly, not everything went back to normal. The friends I had before COVID had disappeared, and I felt as if I had nobody. There were still people around me that I was able to connect with, but there was no one that I was able to go for help and guidance. I felt as if I had no one, and that led to a sea of depression and loneliness. My mind was flooded with negative thoughts like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be somebody else? And I wish people actually liked me. I started to put on a facade to make sure that people can't actually see what I feel. And although it did mask my feelings, it didn't feel right. After a few months had gone by, I started to participate in more extracurricular activities like tennis, marching band, science Olympiad, and more. And with the help of these activities, my mental health started to shift in a more positive way. I was able to feel more content with who I am as a person, and I was able to connect with people on a deeper level than a way I wasn't able to before. I felt as if I had people in my life who cared about me and wanted to get to know me, and that created feelings of comfortness and familiarity. I had a more optimistic outlook on myself and my social life altogether. While being surrounded by people who care about me, I came to the overwhelming fact that it does, and it will get better. American philanthropist Melinda Gates says that optimism isn't a belief that things will automatically get better. It's a conviction that we can make things better. And I believe that with the correct change in mindset, finding activities that you love, and surrounding yourself with loving people, these will make a perfect recipe to help find optimism within your life. Thank you so much.
Our third student to speak with his oratorical presentation on this very, very interesting subject matter is Johnny Lisi III.
Thank you so much. Discovering the optimism within me. It seems like a tough task, but is it really? When you discover your inner optimist, you unlock a whole new level of mental toughness. Helen Keller once said, "Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence." First off, optimism is the key to mental toughness. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's start off by talking about mental toughness. What does it mean? Mental toughness partners defines it as your ability to perform consistently under stress and pressure, and is closely related to qualities such as character, resilience, grit, and perseverance. We normally hear this term associated with athletes, but what about people like you and I? Being an optimist has many wonderful benefits, but this is just one. How can we be mentally tough? Well, Forbes says that one of the ways to do this is to focus on what is in your control. These days, it's very hard to do this. What is even in our control? How do we figure that out? Or even more important, how do we cope with that? I have always found it tough to focus on what is in my control. One of the best uses of optimism is to help you in tough situations and be flexible. Another way to discover the optimism within you is to be resilient. I touched a little bit on resilience with mental toughness, but there is so much more to it. Resiliency is staying tough and bouncing back after a difficult challenge. When I was doing research, I came across this old story from the University of Texas at Austin. I immediately thought about resilience and optimism, so I'll share this story with you tonight. One day, a farmer's donkey fell down into a well. The animal cried for hours as the farmer tried to figure out what to do. Finally, he decided that the animal was old and the well needed to be covered up. Anyway, it just wasn't worth it to retrieve the donkey. He grabbed a shovel and began to shovel dirt into the well. At first, the donkey realized what was happening and cried horribly. Then, to his amazement, he quieted down. A few shovelloads later, the farmer finally looked down the well. He was astonished at what he saw. With each shovel of dirt that hit his back, the donkey was doing something amazing. He would shake it off and take a step up. The donkey stepped over the edge of the well and happily trotted off. Life is going to shovel dirt on you, all kinds of dirt. The trick to getting out of the well is to shake it off and take a step up. Each of our troubles is a stepping stone. We can get out of the deepest wells just by not stopping and never giving up. This story shows us that even in the darkest of situations, there is a light. There is hope for the situation and a way to make it better. We can all be just like that donkey and never give up. How does this tie into discovering the optimism within me? By being resilient, you're able to stay strong, and by being an optimist, you find the positives in those situations. These major traits and skills go hand in hand and are a wonderful addition to your optimism. I'll share one final story with you that I love. This is another one I found from the University of Texas at Austin. I remember hearing this story when I was young. A young woman went to her mother and told her about her life and how things were so hard for her. She did not know how she was going to make it and wanted to give up. She was tired of fighting and struggling. It seemed that as one problem was solved, a new one arose. Her mother took her into the kitchen. She filled 3 pots with water and placed each on a high fire. Soon the pots came to a boil. In them, she placed carrots, eggs, and coffee beans. In about 20 minutes, she turned off the burners and placed each in a bowl. Turning to her daughter, she asked, "Tell me, what do you see?" "Carrots, eggs, and coffee," the daughter replied. Her mother brought her closer and asked her to feel the carrots. She did and noted that they were soft. The mother then asked her daughter to take an egg and break it. She observed the hard-boiled egg. Finally, the mother asked her daughter to sip the coffee. Her daughter smiled as she tasted its rich aroma. The daughter then asked, "What does it mean, mother?" "Which are you?" she asked her daughter. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? Think of this. Which am I? Am I the carrot that seems strong, but with pain and adversity do I will to become soft and lose my strength? Or am I the egg that starts with a malleable heart but changes with the heat? Or am I like the coffee bean? The bean actually changes the hot water, the very circumstance that brings the pain. When the water gets hot, it releases the fragrance and flavor. If you are like the bean, when things are at their worst, you get better and change the situation around you. Are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean?" I love this story very much because it reminds us that we have a choice of how we can act when a tough situation arises. We have a choice about how we can come out of that tough situation. I hope that if you remember anything from this speech tonight, it's this: be the coffee bean. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. We have one more math student for recognition. Okay.
President and superintendent are getting their steps in today at the board meeting. I'd like to call up Alyssa Bubniak. I just presented, come on up, Alyssa. I just presented an award to Liam. Liam and Alyssa were on the same team, and I wanted to present that award to you for CNY Innovation First Place. Nice job, Alyssa. Alyssa, hold on. And then I'm gonna have Allie and Miss Hertzberg also come up. Congratulations, Alyssa.
Okay. My understanding is we have no registered speakers this evening, so we'll go right on to the Board of Education Committee reports. Do we have one or a date?
I believe the next policy committee meeting will be the 30th of June,
May?
May. Oh yeah, May 30th, sorry. Forgot what
Okay.
month it is.
In legislative, how do we do?
We did very well, and I'll speak about that later, but our next meeting and our last meeting of the year will be June 6th at 4 o'clock at Twin Trees 3.
Okay, thank you. And the BOCES report was sent out to everybody. Any comments on that? No. Okay,
Yeah, I have a few things. Again, if you have any questions about my monthly meeting at BOCES, OCM BOCES, please feel free to text me or call me, but it has been an active place. Mr. Bowles has attended many of the events. One thing that Mr. Bowles went to was the Skills USA competition that I talked about at the state fair. We had 4 or 5 students. This was the state competition that will be going on to Atlanta, Georgia. Our CNS students ended up in second in both of their events. So that's second in the state. To me, that's very good. This is where all the students show their skills that they have learned in at OCM BOCES. There was a school library system award luncheon that Dan attended also with many of the superintendents. And this is an event they have not had for 4 years where a teacher through Onondaga County is awarded a special award along with administrator of a school who has gone beyond for use of the library. Battle of the Books has been a phenomenal thing. I watched the 7th through 9th grade. You can go online and see it. I am anxious to see grades 1 and 2 that Doreen was talking about. Each of the groups of students have to read 4 books, and then it's a little competition where whoever hits the buzzer first, it's done virtually. So if you want to go online, I think it's just an excellent event. The Crown Road School had an art music show. It's amazing that what kind of artwork and music these students that are so, they have so many problems and stuff. They show their work out in art and so forth. And that's about it. But there are a lot of events coming, a lot of graduations. We have 1 CNS graduation. I will be going to 8 OCM BOCES graduations, and Dan will be going to a few of those. So again, if you have any questions about my report, please, I make it short because you can go in and see the full report. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Superintendent's comments.
Thank you. There's been a lot of activity. We've had a talent show, the high school. We've had vocal jazz for the last 2 weeks. Junior prom is taking place. We have girls golf will be in the sectional finals on Tuesday at Cannon Valley. Sectional quarterfinals Tuesday for our boys baseball team at Donovan Stadium in Utica. On Thursday, softball will host FM at Gillette for sectionals, and also sectional track meet Wednesday, May 24th at CNS at 4 p.m. So there's a lot of activity that's been going on, and our students have been competing and doing quite well.
Okay, thank you. Board of Ed comments. I had a few. I know you had some. Doesn't matter. I'll go, but I'm gonna read, but I'll paraphrase. And if I go off script, good luck to you all. I just wanted to just reflect a moment on the budget process and thank the board members, thank the administration for going through. It was a bit of a difficult process, and we have more to come in the future. And I fully understand that when changes occur in a budget, they hit people in different ways. And I appreciate and respect that others in the school community have a right to their opinions. I thought the vote was disappointing and surprising how close. I'm very pleased that it passed. Part of me thinks it's maybe a misunderstanding or misinformation. And so I just wanted to just talk briefly about that because it's been on my mind, and I wrote some things a couple weeks ago, reflected, changed them significantly, and thought I'd still read them. But, you know, we would provide time, public comment time at the board meetings, and we listen to people who come and speak. And that's a great practice, a best practice. Most school boards do that. It's my understanding when somebody provides us something in writing, they get a response where there's a response needed if there's a question in there. But it seems, you know, recently, and this is maybe a few board meetings ago, a month ago, I hear information and it just is misinformation. And I think it's unfortunate that it gets put out there, and it seems to be the only narrative that's left hanging in the air, goes over lines and online, and people hear that. And, you know, I'm speaking for myself, not the whole board. I mean, you all have your opinions. I'm one of 9. But it bothered me a bit, and I thought about it a lot. I mean, people can express their opinions, but we were accused of lying. I mean, that word was used flat out. It's simply not true. It was alleged that we don't care about the mental health of students, and that can be farther from the truth if you've followed what we've done through the last couple of years of the budget process, the resources put into SEL. I think it's sad that that statement was put out there. I mean, every student has a person they can turn to when in need. The comment was made about the details of the budget being hidden until the last minute. And, you know, my only thought, and we have a budget subcommittee, Don and Dan work on this with Chris and Jason and the directors. And it did go to the last minute because the state budget wasn't completed. And they turned over every stone. And even in the last few days, it came out a lot better than I ever thought it was going to. So I appreciate that. And I'm glad we used every moment available. As you recall, we had the special board meeting to adopt the BOCES budget, and we moved the budget another week ahead and adopted it that night. And there were changes that occurred over that period of time. So it's not an intentional holding off to the last minute to hide details. I wasn't going to say this one, but I'm just going to make a reference that somebody did sit here and say we line our pockets, and I'm still trying to process that to see to understand what that meant. Other than that, I mean, I do understand the economic environment's different for different people. I understand taxes. I understand changes in assessments that occur. And all those pieces, along with some other things, I think tend to grow and take on a life of their own, especially in the social media world, which is unfortunate. Just another comment, because I'm afraid we may hear more and more about this. We had a discussion with regards to a specific author that spoke at the junior high school and a book that they happened to be an author of, that my understanding wasn't the topic of the discussion, but we were read excerpts of that book, and you know, I found out then we ask questions. We have a policy. The policy was actually in the works and being followed in that instance, where a parent can have access to a book denied. And we've never taken away rights of any parents, but also we have a right to protect those who want access to appropriate resources. It's not a one size fits all world. I feel like we're starting to get pieces of the false narrative being propagated around this country and being dragged into the culture wars, which I think we've avoided for the most part here in North Syracuse. But it concerns me when I see that, because simply non-truths it's like we're on some nefarious mission here to indoctrinate students, and we are not. That is simply not true. We're all volunteers at this table. And it's just ridiculous, and it's just growing, and it disturbs me. So I wanted to say that. It's tough to be a parent. You know, I feel lucky that, you know, my daughter dealt with instant message. There was maybe some texting going on, and Facebook was kind of new when she took off and didn't have to deal with that. And I can understand that's difficult, but, you know, having said that, if you're worrying about books in our libraries, our students have access to everything in the world at their fingertips. And they're going to ask questions, and you just simply can't avoid topics. I think this is just part of parenting, and I'm sorry that that came up, and I hope people understand that that's not simply not what we're doing here. You know, that we take the safety of our students extremely seriously. We've put a lot of resources into that. And it's my hope, and this is not a political statement, it's just my hope that someday our elected officials at the federal level will discuss what is the real threat to our students. And I'm not taking a position one way or another, but they don't even talk about it. They don't even talk about it. And to me, that should be where the real focus is with safety. But, you know, being in the education space, we have a responsibility to teach students about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have to create learning environments that are safe and welcoming for all students, regardless of the race, ethnicity, gender, ableness. You know, you hear the phrase all means all, and we see that referenced in our strategic plan and our mission. We're here to educate all students at the highest level of academic achievement and prepare them to be productive, responsible, ethical, creative, and compassionate members of society. I got that right out of our little paper right there. Our vision states we're safe, welcoming, and inclusive, where all students are valued and supportive. So I say that because I keep hearing DEI referenced as, again, part of our indoctrination process, and I think that's really unfortunate. And I welcome anybody's comments or opinions on that, but you know, that's where I stand. And as we go forward, you know, I hope this community can come together and support one another to be the best we can be. Because I think next year, I know next year promises to be another challenging year with more federal money coming off the table. So I just wanted to say that. I mean, we're not at the end, we're at the end of the budget season. We just finished that. It feels like that came off the shelf. I know we're not at the end of the year. But we're past the vote, and I just wanted to put that out there. So I am done, and I will stop babbling now that I'm done and my paper's blank. Thank you. You said I could go first, but I didn't really want to.
It's hard to follow you, and
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President, for sharing your views, because I think a majority of us around this table understand exactly what you're talking about. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the events that Dan didn't talk about, or he just touched on. The Special Olympics were held last Thursday at CNS, and what a wonderful event it was. The majority of the students were from OCM BOCES and from North Syracuse, but West Hill was here, Chittenango, many school districts. Beautiful day. And the high school students dressed up in costumes, and the first boy off the Chittenango bus just hugged, forgot who I said it earlier, and I can't think of who the character was, Scooby-Doo or something.
Oh.
Yeah. And he was just smiling, and the high school kids were phenomenal. I never heard him cheer so loudly and hug the kids. And I saw pictures of Amanda's daughter with the kids. You could see how she was. It's just a wonderful event. And our school district should be very proud that we host it and that it ran smoothly. It was done even a little bit earlier. And we also should thank Bill Bradley. He is an amazing announcer up there, announcing the running events. You know, you have to hear him. I also had a chance to go to Umoja, the cultural dinner that is done every year. I can only stay a little bit. This is Dr. Reed's club, and Hanifa, she was there that night with food from her country and so forth. They have a menu, and also they had a speaker, and then they had a fashion show with it. It's an event that has grown and grown and grown with celebrating our diversity and culture, which you were talking about. We should be very proud of this kind of activity. I had a chance to go to the Smith Road Elementary Science Fair, which was held recently, because science is, the math guy's gone, so I'm all set. Science is was what Dan knows, what I loved when I was teaching. And these kids were amazing. A vinegar balloons experiment, something about red pandas. The girl was amazing with that. So it was a wonderful event. And John Royce, I know, is kind of in charge of that. Mr. Bowles and I attended the CNS orchestra concert. Mr. Harnoy did a phenomenal job with the CNS concert. He and I also attended the jazz concert that Miss Rossa worked very, very hard on. I also had a chance yesterday to go to Sharkey's in Liverpool, where there is it's run by the Central New York Jazz, and they give the kids ideas about how they could improve or what they liked about it. And I thought it was a great event yesterday. And if you want to go to a concert, I know Mr. Bowles and I will be sitting together, will be Thursday. This is the final concert. Now, it's just Haniva plays the cello. They're only going to do one song. Each group only does one song, but they award all their awards, and and then the seniors, they have a cake and everything. So it's 6:30 because every group in the high school will be participating. So if you would like to go, it'll be a wonderful night. We have to remember there are a lot of elementary chorus concerts coming up. They finished their orchestra and bands, and I know that Dr. Kramer has probably some kind of concert at her school that's the kids enjoy singing and so forth. Dollars for Scholars night will be, I told you last time, it's June 6th, and it is a long program, Mr. Bowles. I know they got it down to an hour and a half, but over 110 scholarships will be given. And there are some special memorial scholarships that we don't like to rush because they're in memory of many students that are no longer with us. So that is there, but you also got something on your table. I gave everybody, they are having a golf tournament on June 11th. And I do know that Mr. Farfalia and Mrs. Farfalia think they're going to win it again this year. I have heard that, but we are looking for teams. And I got to say, I don't know if Mr. Keegan can help. I know it's late, Mr. Irwin. We used to have many teams from our construction workers and from people that we work with. And I know King and King will be there. They have a team, but whether we can do it this year, years ago, we used to have many, many teams from businesses that we work with. Now, we also have for $200 whole sponsors. And I ran into the vice president today, and she said, Bob, she said, there's a sign that says North Syracuse Board of Education. So I'm going to ask you next week, if everybody put $20 in, we will sponsor a whole, and our name will be out there that we're supporting these scholarships. And if we don't have enough money, I'll take care of it. But I think when we know that there's a sign out there that we've not had out there, we could, as a board, sponsor a whole and do that. So I'll send an envelope around. You can write a check if you want to for dollars for scholars or cash. And the last thing goes to what our president said, but I will say it in a different way. I am very happy that all the propositions were overwhelmingly passed. I always challenge the legislative committee. We need to have more voters. When I started with this, we had 1,500 voters. Last year, we had 1,700. And this year, we had, and I don't have the number, but 1,835. This just doesn't happen. NSCA goes beyond in supporting our budget and the propositions. I got robocalls, I got texts from certain person. They do a phenomenal job to get out the educators and the workers that work in schools. We had parents go to the elementary school, go to Gillette Road School, go to the art and music thing at the high school and pass out flyers. You know, Chris was there, Don was there, you know, passing out flyers on a Saturday, letting them know about the budget. So we're going to get better and better and getting more people to get out and vote. I'm very happy about the bus proposition. We had editorial that was put in by somebody I know 2 days before the vote saying, you know, we got to watch out. We need to get electrical buses and don't vote for your buses. So very, very happy that that was overwhelming. We need the buses. We can't do that electrical overnight. Will it happen? We'll see. But I'm glad our people did not listen to that proposition because another school district, they did. The other thing was moving the vote from Cicero out where we have students, where we have strangers walking in over 1,500 student or people walking in while kids are walking the hallways. What a great idea by this administration to now move it permanently to the stadium where there's a lot of parking. It's away from students. And I know, talking about what you said, people thought that we'll be having the teachers take the students over there. You can take them over, but they may not vote, you know, so, but people had that out on, I think. But personally, and the library, what important library in the town of Salina. It's located right next to the Roxborough, it's on the Roxborough Middle campus and elementary. What a great library and leaders. That's important. The North Syracuse Library and Cicero are separate. They're voted on in March. But personally, you know how I felt. And I want to thank Terry and I want to thank Mark, you know, for all their work to get a student on this body. It's very important to me when a student came to me and said something and I followed through with it. And Terry came up with the idea of a mentor and Mark is working on it in policy committee. And Paul and I went up last week and spoke to this wonderful group of principals cabinet. Yes, it has to be a junior. There were some wonderful seniors there, but it has to be a junior. And the application has to be in by May 31st. So then it will be turned over to a committee that involves teachers, students, and principals. And so we should know very shortly who that student will be. I want to thank all of you for your support for it. It meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to the student that came to me and talked about it. And that's where I'm on today. I know I went way past 3 minutes, but you know, Paul, you're right about this board. This board, I said it before, is special. All 9 of you are volunteers and you care about everybody in this district. And we do care about the taxpayers, but we know that the program that we put forth and what our administrators put is the best for the students at North Syracuse. So we try our best. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's great that we've seen a little increase each year in the number of voters coming out. But what you mentioned to me roughly, Jill, the total registered voters? Yeah, so we have a big pool. But we'll work on getting there, but, yeah, the student on the board was, that was the biggest, win margin of all the votes.
We need to take that.
Mhm.
We should do like 5:30 in the morning and go between the schools and the people that work for you. That's not an easy job. I know that. So thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Say one thing really quick?
Absolutely.
Awesome. One really amazing thing our district did this weekend was Madam Keen took, I think, about 40 French students to Montreal. Amazing. My daughter went and a bunch of her friends. They had a great time. They did so much. So I just hope our district knows what a great language program we have. I have one kid in French, one in Spanish, and we just have awesome language programs here. And as someone who's, doing a lot of college research, colleges want language. So any of the parents that might be, kids that might not want to do it, French 4 or 5, it's, I don't know, totally worth it. And this trip was amazing. And I think it's our first international trip in
It's been
several
a while. That's
years.
why I was going to comment because, again, we had stopped things, just prior to COVID because of some international issues, and then COVID kind of exacerbated that. So, when the opportunity presented itself to try to redo some of the things that we used to do, we felt that was a safer trip. And I think everyone involved, as you say, really enjoyed it.
Merci. Hey,
Just real quick,
sure.
we're all going to speak tonight.
Yep,
Let's go.
that's okay.
Just to again, thank the community for their support and continuing their support on our educators and our schools throughout our community. I think everybody in the 3 towns that we serve understand the importance of a good education system. And I think that North Syracuse has the best in the area. And we continue to make sure at this board that we are putting out the best budget possible to make sure we maintain our programming. Like Paul said, Paul, thank you very much for saying what you said, because a lot of that, we all think it from this table, it is very challenging sometimes to hear comments and not respond back to them to help answer some of those questions in front of the camera, in front of the public. Mike Schuster always used to say, these are meetings held in public, not public meetings. So we are allowing the public to address us, and we do have, and I want people at home and people who come to the meetings to really understand this. We all follow up on every comment that is brought up before this board, whether it be directly after a meeting, through communications, and we get answers back to people. This is anything that comes before the board, we do follow through with. So, and I know it doesn't always come out because we don't address things back to the public. But it can be very frustrating when something comes up that we know can be corrected, but we don't engage in that manner. So, Paul, thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, I'm not speaking on behalf of everybody, but I hope you can agree with that. I was a little disappointed that the budget did not pass by a larger margin, but I do understand that the financial situation for everybody is rough right now. We have a lot of work to do, and I think that the team that we have in place will be able to continue their efforts next year. And I think we will be able to do a better job at communicating out earlier, and being more educational in the process as we approach next May. Second, this past Friday, I attended the talent show with Mr. Crabtree. The high school kids top the talent in this area, bar none. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Thank you to John Nadler and all of his students for putting on that show. Thank you to all of the high school students and their families that came. And thank you to all the administrators and staff that participated throughout the show. It really was one of the best shows that I think we've had this year. So if you guys didn't get a chance to go, they'll be having a video out, the whole show coming up next month, and I would encourage you guys to try to watch it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? No pressure. Okay, then with that, routine action items, I'll look for a motion to consider the approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 1st. Motion from Mr. Thorne, second from Dr. Kramer. Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, and, thank you, the May 1st and May 11th meeting of the board. Okay, those are before us. Any questions? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. A motion, please, to place B, C, and D together before us. Motion, Mr. Thorne, second from Ms. Zegru. These are the consideration approval of classification of and placement of the disabled students for school, preschool, and in-home instruction. That's before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And item E, please, a motion to place the acknowledgement of business office reports before us. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. We have two gifts, A and B. If I could get a motion to place those together. A motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. A and B are gifts that are before us. We have the they're both grants from NSCF. Any discussion or questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, those are carried. And item C, please, the UPK provider approval. A motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Zegru. Those are before you. You see the chart there. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Usually we can start off by taking every single student, but as it goes on, sometimes there is a short waiting list. But we've usually exhausted that, usually by sometime during the school year.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, that is before us. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That is carried. Resolution to standardize school buildings and facilities. Motion, please place that before us. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. Any question about that? That was explained to us, I believe. I read it Friday letter, was it? Okay. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Okay, motion for E to put before us the internal audit report. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. Okay, the internal audit report is before us. Any questions or comments about that? Well, I'll make one quick comment. Just as you look at these, I mean, just my personal preference or strategy. I look at the nice dashboard, although you kind of had to turn your head sideways. But you know, they break it down into inherent risk and control risk. And I think that's an important first thing to look at as a board member. You know, the inherent risk is the risk of the item before you, just before applying our controls, and the control risk is how adequate our internal controls addressing or mitigating that risk. So as you can see, when you look at that, and we targeted certain items, technology is always going to be a challenge in a scary area, but that's the nature of that. So I just wanted to point that out and see if there are any questions about any of the reports in there. Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, thank you, that is accepted. Declaration of marketable, non-marketable goods, motion, place it before us. Motion, Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, thank you, that is carried. Resolution to abolish and create instructional positions pertaining to the 23-24 budget. Motion from Mr. Thorne, second from Dr. Kramer. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Opposed, thank you, that is carried. A resolution to increase maintenance and operations substitute pay. Dr. Kramer, that's motion, second from Mr. Thorne. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. We have a resolution to create 0.2 FTE special ed teacher at North Syracuse Junior High. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Ms. Kruger. that is before us. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, thank you. That is carried. And J, a motion to place that before us, resolution to abolish and create co-curricular advisor at CNS of 1.1 FTE. Motion from Mr. Maurizio, second from Dr. Kramer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Motion for item K, OCM BOCES equivalent of attendance, employment preparation, education. So on Dr. Kramer, second from Mr. Thorne. Any question about that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Yeah. Motion for place L before us, resolution, the Board of Education to approve the contract with OCM BOCES. Motion from Ms. Kruger, second from Mr. Thorne. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Item M, to amend the start time of the June 5th meeting of the Board of Education. Motion, Ms. Maurizio, second from Dr. Kramer. Okay, that is before us. I think some emails went around. So everybody's understands that and what we're doing there. Okay. And that gives us I know we used to be concerned when that was adjoining a board meeting, but we didn't leave a lot of time in the past. This gives us a good block of time. So thank you. I think that's important. So we have it locked. So we all know. Okay. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. And we have a policy, a motion to place that before us. Motion from Mr. Thorne, second from Ms. Kruger. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. And some retirements to acknowledge. We have Lorene Wisniewski, teaching assistant, retiring with 20 years of service. And Pearl Scheibler, school bus driver with 30 years of service. Wow. Thank you. Thank you to those two. Yes. Enjoy your retirement. Instructional report A, a motion, place that before us, please. Motion from Dr. Kramer, second from Mr. Maurizio. Any comments or questions? Mm-hmm.
Don, have those bus ads that we've had on this, are they working? Oh, great, great. I see them all over the place. They move.
You can discuss those in personnel report B, because that's just germane. That's okay. But that is germane to the issue before us. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. And support personnel B, motion, place that before us. Mr. Thorne, second, Mr. Maurizio. Okay, we had some comments about that already, so all in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. At this time, I'm going to make a motion for executive session. Ask for a second. The motion is to move into session for the purpose of receiving an update on negotiations with the middle manager's bargaining unit and the director's bargaining unit, to receive an update regarding 3 legal matters and to review 3 personnel matters with no action to follow. Then a brief workshop regarding superintendent's upcoming evaluation. Second, Mr. Maurizio, any discussion, additions, deletions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. And a motion to adjourn, please. Motion from Mr. Maurizio, second from Ms. Kruger. All in favor? Opposed, thank you. That is carried.